warmly welcoming you to How Does She Do It, the podcast, with me, your host, Jo Ferroni. Join me on my journey as I explore finding a gentle balance in both business and life, because being kind to ourselves is our superpower. In today's episode, I'm delighted to welcome Monica Bazzani, a sound therapist, Reiki master, and Qigong teacher, whose career path is a testament to following your heart and embracing change. Monica is incredibly open in our conversation as she shares her diverse professional journey before eventually finding her true calling in the transformative world of sound therapy and energy work through her business, Lunar Sound and Energy. She explains how she creates immersive experiences where clients are quite literally bathed in sound and the profound impact this has on nervous system regulation and overall well-being. Her approach is deeply healing. A theme throughout our conversation is Monica's emphasis on vulnerability and authenticity, how showing up as her true self has enabled deeper connections with others who recognise their own experiences in her story. She speaks beautifully about the importance of channeling her inner child, allowing laughter and joy to flow freely, and the transformative power of simply being present in each moment. Monica's journey offers both inspiration and practical wisdom for anyone exploring alternative healing modalities, considering a career change, or simply looking for permission to embrace more joy and authenticity in their daily life. Enjoy the show. This week's episode is sponsored by Juliette Rivette, founder of West Surrey Accountants. If you're a small business owner who finds accounting a bit overwhelming, Juliette might just be the person you need. What really sets her apart is how genuinely warm and approachable she is. Clients love that she takes the time to get to know them and their business, making what can sometimes be a stressful topic feel genuinely manageable. Juliette specialises in working with sole traders and small to medium businesses, helping with everything from self-assessments and bookkeeping to VAT returns and payroll. And she actually wants you to understand your numbers. No confusing jargon, just clear explanations that help you make better decisions for your business. Here's the good news. Juliette is offering you 10% off if you sign up before the end of December, whether that's for your self-assessment or a full year's support for your limited company. So if you'd like a top-notch accountant who genuinely cares about making your finances less stressful, contact Juliette at westsurreyaccountants.com, quoting HDSDI. Find the link in the show notes. Did you know that I have a range of free resources over on my website, from networking tips to habit trackers and the benefits of co-working to starting your own podcast? If you'd like to dip into these topics and more without paying a penny, then head on over to howdoesshedoit.life today and hit the free stuff tab. Simple and easy to follow and digest. They might just give you the nudge you need as you move on with or even start your own business. Head to the show notes for an easy link to take you directly there, and do let me know how you find them. I'd love to set the scene. It is blowing a hoolie outside. It's 8 o'clock in the morning, and I speak to Monica as the first thing that I'm doing today, and I couldn't be more delighted. Welcome, Monica. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure. What a lovely start to my day. So thank you very much. To your beautiful face, glowing energy, looking radiant as always. So thank you so much.
Bless your heart. We were talking before we hit record about the good energy that we both feel from each other. And I was saying that I really believe that that energy is going to be felt. It's going to be exuded and passed across the airwaves to our listeners today. And so I am very excited for that. But before we learn a little bit more about you, Monica, I just wanted to share how we met. And already my cheeks are aching from smiling. It's going to be one of those episodes, and I love that. We met when I went to a wellbeing fair, and I was not in the best place at that time. It was about 18 months ago, and I was walking around this wellbeing fair feeling quite overwhelmed in my mind. It was whilst I was taking a pause in my business and just about considering coming back to it. But I was feeling a little bit lost, and I was feeling, well, I didn't realize until I met you exactly what I was feeling. But I came to your stand at the fair, and you were offering a Reiki taster. And I was so drawn to you, I can't even begin to describe. And I believe it was only about 10 or 15 minutes. And you also used your sound bowl as well. And you absolutely nailed it when you spoke about my throat chakra. And you could just feel, sense, in the wonderful way that you do, that there was blockage there. It was needing some work. And I just want to thank you again for having the most beautiful power and energy to make such a deep connection with me, with someone who had just met you for the first time. And that stayed with me for so long. And I'm sure it also had an effect on me coming back to my business and beginning to share my voice more, as I've always wanted to, but always been far too afraid to do. So this is my huge thank you before we even start today for what you gifted me that day.
Mm. Talk about throat chakras. You've just, that's really so lovely to hear. I don't have the words. I know you are the lady with the words, Joe. And I do remember you giving me some poems, actually, some cards, and I still have them. And I I read them. I do read them, and every now and again I will read them, and I think, oh, that's so beautiful. And actually, I this is a good reminder because I have them, and there's so many times that I wanted to say, right, I'm going to share this, and I have shared it with friends actually, but even sharing it to a wider audience, and I think I am. Yes, would love to do that more because it's so precious to hear that and to actually be able to share things. So the fact that you're sharing more, you're back where you need to be, helping others, and sharing your voice is just incredible to hear. So thank you so much. And wow, that's such an honor to hear that. And I'm so glad that you came along that day. And there are no coincidences, I don't think. So yes, thank you.
It was meant to be. I just felt really drawn to share that with you today. And I really love that actually it is now logged here in the podcast. So you can hear it again whenever you perhaps do. So I've got to ask because I don't know, and I love it when I don't know the answers to the questions I ask here on the podcast. Have you always been in this line of work and healing, or did you do something different earlier on in your career?
So no, I haven't always been in this line of work. I used to work in IT. I did love actually working in IT. I think the thing I loved the most was being around people, meeting new people, and I've always loved children as well. Working with children, I did a bit of a stint working as a nanny before I went into IT. Then I went off traveling, and then I came back and I thought, right, I need to get a job. What am I going to do? IT seems like a good idea, so I trained in that. I was at HP for about 7 years, I think it was, and then I left. I became a teaching assistant with the view to become a teacher, and then I got pregnant, so I ended up staying at home because, to be honest, it wasn't actually worth my while to go to work, and it would have been it made more sense to be at home, and I was super grateful for that as well, incredibly grateful. And while I was a stay-at-home mum, I trained as a photographer. So I then worked ad hoc with the children doing things like photo booths, which I still have all the stuff for actually. I haven't done it for a few years, but it's always there. And portraiture and that kind of stuff, portrait photography, and also product photography. Sorry, I meant to say. And then I actually went back before being fully in full time in this business as a teaching assistant as well. So I love being around people, children, animals. Don't they say don't work with children and animals? And I went into this probably about 6 years ago.
Okay. I love that thread that is just woven through everything that you've done, and that's people. And I think that goes for the travel as well, because, you're not ever completely on your own when you're traveling either. And I guess that that's what lights you up. And having taken that thread through different industries must have given you such a great grounding actually for life, because you were working in such different places but still bringing you to those jobs and to those places. That sounds incredible. And I also love that you made the decision, which is never an easy decision, I don't think, to work out what was best for you when you had children. And I too was a stay-at-home mum. I wanted to be there, and I've I don't know whether you've ever had this, but I had quite a lot of people tell me it's all right for you. You must be, you're so lucky that you can afford to do it. But actually, we didn't really have a great deal, but we just kind of made it work. And I think that being a mum at home, dealing with all that you have to deal with, that also gives us an incredible grounding for whatever we might go on to do afterwards as well, because it's a job like no other. And we don't get any prior training. We just have to hit the ground running and deal with whatever comes up throughout all of those different phases of our children's lives as well. So I feel you've had so much variety. So could you tell us now what you do and what you offer, the name of your business as well?
And actually, Joe, just to go back to the stay-at-home mum bits, just I really hear you with that. I think there could be a real assumption, like you say, that, oh, it's all right for you and it's okay. And that projection, I feel like that's actually a projection, because there is so much guilt actually around being a mother. Mother's guilt. I always say mother's guilt and Catholic guilt. I was brought up as Catholic and as a mother, I think I've got the holding both of them. So I really, really hear you with that, and the guilt that we can carry as women and mothers. And whether you stay at home or whether you go to work, I feel there's this guilt and shame in both of them. And it's really interesting that, yeah, when you hear it and you think, and you think, actually, is the other holding this? And if they were able just to say, do you know what? I feel really guilty that I'm going to work. I feel really guilty that I'm staying at home. I feel like I'm not doing it, and that we could come together and help one another heal. So I would just like to bring that out and say I hear you, and yes. So the name of my business is Luna Sound and Energy. Luna, the Italian word for moon. And I've always felt drawn to the moon. And one of my friends calls me Luna. And I thought, okay, this feels right. So I offer sound baths, gong baths, and one-to-one sessions. And I also teach Qigong. So that's it in a nutshell.
Could you explain what a sound bath and a gong bath is for the listener, that someone that's heard the term but hasn't ever quite grasped what it is, or felt that they could ask someone because they feel that they perhaps should know?
I really invite anyone to ask me anything, and no question is a silly question, as they say. So, yes, I do get asked, is there a bath involved? And the answer is no, although that would be cool. And we have done floating sound baths. So, that's a kind of a bath in Lilos on a lake. So, the bath part relates to the bathing, being bathed in sound and feeling the vibrations washing over you. And I guess there are different terms: gong bath, sound journey. There's lots of different ways you can express it.
Now, I've been lucky enough to come to one of your sound baths of a Friday evening, I think it was, which was the most perfect time to engage in something like that. And I remember that your big gong was in the middle, and there were also lots of other instruments around. Can you tell us a little bit about them and the effect that they have on people, just the general effect that they have on people?
Sure. So I love using my gongs in a sound bath or gong bath. For me, the gongs are very cleansing, very clearing, and I have 6 gongs. I like to bring at least one big gong with me every time, and at least one or another, depending on the size of the group and the size of the space. I also have crystal bowls that I bring, different ones each time. I have 7. Well, I used to have 7. One of them broke, so I have 6 at the moment, crystal bowls, each attuned to a different chakra. And I have 7 Tibetan bowls, again, the same, tuned to different chakras. So I like to mix and match and bring a few different things each time, and it might be a different bit of percussion. I have my drum with my lovely fox on there, painted on, and also rattles, an ocean drum. I have a little tongue drum that I bring sometimes. So many different things. I just love sound. I've always loved sound, and I love bringing little extra bits in. So but generally it will be the sort of bones of it will be the gong, the crystal bowls or the Tibetan bowls, and the drum, and then other little bits around it to just bring their different energy in. And sometimes I may have everything, and after I finish playing the gong, I'll look at them all and think, right, which one of you wants to be played next? And I just feel them saying me, and I'll just go to the next one. So I like to leave it and allow it to flow through and be intuitive rather than me having a strict plan.
I love that intuition, just trusting in that intuition that it is going to flow, whichever one that you pick, because you will have picked the right one for that moment in time. One thing I love as a attendee, as a guest of events like yours, is that deep relaxation, but also I'm going to share this. I feel like I'm sharing this with the teacher, and the teacher's going to be a little bit like I'm a naughty schoolgirl. I'm always intrigued to know what the instruments look like. When I hear a new sound, I kind of want to peek, but I also don't want to peek because I want to keep that, the sensory experience. I want to keep it so sort of pure. So I do keep my eyes closed, but I'm always very intrigued what these instruments look like, because it just is such a feast for our ears and for our mind and for our hearts and our bodies as well. And the deep resonance, I mean, you just can't really describe it. You have to experience it, don't you?
Yes, I think so. Yes. And actually, it's interesting you say that. That did make me chuckle because I hear it so much. And sometimes people do peek. And when children come, especially, they love to watch. I think so. So I would say, please, I really encourage that almost childlike innocence, isn't it? Of like, oh, let me see. I would see, what is that? Like curiosity, the curiosity. So I also do joke with people and say, it may not be as interesting as it sounds if you do. I don't want to ruin the magic if you take your eye pillow off and think, oh, is that it? Is that what she's doing? um but I do also get people say to me, have you been playing a recording? And I say, no, that was all just me, and it's all just the instrument. So just to say now, it's never a recording, it's always live, and it's always me. I don't have people in the cupboards coming out and doing anything else. It's just me and the instruments. But yes, also absolutely. If you ever come along, or if anybody comes along, please do look if you feel that. I suppose the only thing is sometimes as well, people feel like they're so relaxed, and a lot of people have shared that they feel like they're almost being held down in a comforting, grounded way, that they couldn't actually physically lift up the eye pillow even if they wanted to. But yes, you're very welcome to, and it may not look as exciting as it sounds, but please do also come and look at the instruments afterwards. It's lovely to have a look.
It's that when you use the word curiosity, that exact word came into my head just before you said it. And it is that childlike curiosity. Let's explore, let's be playful, let's enjoy just not knowing and then finding out. It's lovely, I think, in this modern world to be able to enjoy things like this, which I think just carry so much more meaning and depth than a clicking a button on a phone. So yeah, we've all got to ground ourselves back into these basics, which are just so very beautiful. I would love to talk about the nervous system a little bit today, because it's certainly something that I've been learning a lot more about in the last few years, and realizing how important it is to learn about it. And actually, I've interviewed both Karen Statner and Nahid de Beljon in recent times, within the last year, who also focus on our nervous systems. It's a really important area of work. So are you able to speak to how your work supports nervous system regulation for people, and maybe also explain why it's quite important to do this?
Well, yes, I would say the sound for me has helped my nervous system so much. I have spent, and I realize now, like having been in a situation where I've been in fight or flight and association and all the rest of them. And then realizing now, I'm thinking, oh my goodness, that was just such an elevated state, not elevated, an intense state to be in, and very damaging for the body, actually, because there's no chance to stop, to rest, to repair. And for me, the sound takes you into that space of rest. It just brings everything down and then allows you to go into the parasympathetic nervous system, brings you into that homeostasis where your body starts to repair itself. And I feel in this modern world, there are so many distractions. Everything's go, 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 come this, that. It's like you're being fired at continuously. And to even just have that space, and whatever you do, it doesn't have to be a sound bath, but just to stop and give yourself, I mean, an hour, great, even longer, fantastic, but just to stop, to not move. And it can be so hard for people. And also, another thing I'd like to say is please don't worry if you feel like you're going to fidget. Please come, because a lot of people say, oh, I'm really fidgety, I won't be able to sit. And then they do. And sometimes they don't. And that's also okay, but you will still receive the benefits in the body of the vibration. So, yes, for me, the sound gives you that chance to stop. It switches off the mind and it brings you into the rest and digest phase, which is so crucial for healing, for repair, for allowing you to live a full and healthy life.
I really love that you have just shared it's okay if you fidget, because I know that we have so much unwinding to do that it's probably very likely that when you start attending something like your sound or gong baths, it is going to be quite unusual, quite opposed to your normal way of being, normal in inverted commas there. And we have taken so many years of build up, if you like, to become these kind of wound up, stressed human beings, that it really is no surprise that it's going to take a while for us to start unwinding. And that's probably not going to happen in one session. And I think that just by putting ourselves in that space to almost honor our body and our mind, that we are trying to do something about it, that we do want to feel calmer, more able to deal with what life throws at us, that maybe it's a gentle and consistent approach that we come every month or every week, if that's possible, and really give ourselves that grace and then witness the change, however gently that change takes place, but to really be aware and witness it. And do you think that people who have got high stress roles can benefit from sound healing to help calm their stress?
Absolutely. I think it will. I think it benefits everybody, no matter what age, what walk of life you're in, what job you have or don't have. And I loved what you said as well about the bringing the awareness in. I think we put so much pressure on ourselves, and it has to be this, and it has to be that, and oh, this hasn't happened, and I would say bring that curiosity in again. Be curious with what's there, and I always invite, when I'm running a session, whether that's sound or Qigong, to create that space between the mind and your body, because the mind is very good at constantly chattering away and saying, you should be feeling this or that, or blah, 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 and having an opinion about something or telling you what you should be doing. And just to move that out of the way and say, okay, let's just see what's going on here. Let's be curious with the feelings I'm feeling in my body. Let me be aware of those thoughts, because actually, are they even true? What are they telling me? You have to do I have to do this? No, I'm just going to feel, listen. And when you give that space, it's really interesting to feel what does come up, or to notice what comes up. And also to take away that judgment of, is it good or bad? Just to be curious and allow what is there, and see it as, I like to say, is it heavy or light? Because then it takes out that stigma of being wrong, or, which personally as well, I can say there's that big voice inside me going, you've done that wrong, you've done this wrong, oh, not good enough, in inverted commas, which I feel all of us have to some degree, and it's very strong.
That really brings me on perfectly to the next thing I wanted to speak to, which was, out of all the many things I love about you, because there are so many, I wanted to take a moment to highlight, and you've just highlighted it by what you said, how beautifully authentic you are. I really, really respect it, because you're not standing there telling people, I've got it all sorted, just do this and be like me, and then your life's going to be perfect. But you're such a genuine and human soul, if that doesn't sound ridiculous to say. I wonder, how does it feel for you to live and work in such an authentic manner? Is it that it just flows because you are just being you?
A very interesting question. I think it's taken me a while to really be more comfortable with myself. And that's not to say I'm completely comfortable with myself, because I probably never will be. I don't, there'll always be something, and there's always, again, that voice that's always with me saying, "But you failed. You're not good enough," blah, blah, all the time. And I'm aware of that. I think I'm just at the moment more able to hold it and say, "Okay." And the word I feel is discipline. I think I've been really working with being disciplined with that voice, and being able to hold it and say, okay, I know you're there. I know that you are fundamentally trying to keep me safe. Thank you so much. And I can feel the fear and the resistance, and still go ahead and do something. So an example would be, recently, in the last probably year or so, I've been using my voice, just chakra toning with bowls. So that's just using vowel sounds while I'm using the crystal bowls. And sometimes with the drum, that brings so much fear into my body. And even now, I will sit there with the crystal bowls and I feel that resistance while I'm playing them. And I have to, again, hold that little girl part of me that's like, it's not safe to do this, you're going to be rejected, everyone's going to laugh at you, whatever that fear is, or that limiting belief is. And now I can hold it and still trust. It's that trust as well, and think, okay, this isn't about me, let me just push myself to the side, push that part to the side. It's about allowing something to come through me. And it's that trust again, trusting that needs to be heard by somebody. Maybe it's one person, maybe it's everybody, and that's okay. Again, that's nothing to do with me. I just push myself aside. So that's, something that I try and do, and hopefully that feels authentic. And I feel sharing yourself vulnerably, because more often than not, at least one other person will think, oh, I think that. And I know when I hear somebody share vulnerably, I think, I'm so glad they said that, because, oh my goodness, I really feel that, and I don't feel as alone now. And I think for me, it's about sharing yourself vulnerably so that someone else can not feel alone.
And what a gift that is. I just have to go back to what you said there about how you use your voice and the vowel sounds alongside your bowls. And I know that I've been in one of your sessions where you've done that. And there I was lying with my eye pillow on, cozy, warm, totally, totally relaxed. And then your voice began. Oh my goodness. And I believe that was one of the times when someone said afterwards, was that a recording? It was perfection. And isn't it interesting how one person can perceive something so differently from someone else. And I've been speaking a lot recently about that inner voice, that inner critic, and how loudly it can shout. Yet no one on the outside is aware of that. And I just think it's wonderful that you speak to that vulnerability and that slight fear, that reticence. And you're exactly right. When we share something vulnerable about ourselves, we are gifting almost a permission slip to other people who resonate and go, oh, it's not just me. Because I think we can be so quick to put others up on a pedestal. And not just that, we then at the same time will berate ourselves. And so for someone who perhaps we are holding up there in high esteem, shares that maybe it's not all coming naturally and easefully. Maybe there are doubts, maybe there are slight concerns. It's just the most connecting thing. I feel it absolutely represents everything that I was hoping you would share and more when I asked you about your authentic manner. That's such a beautiful, beautiful answer. Thank you.
And one more thing I'd like to add to that is it's also taking away the not taking it personally, because sometimes one will share something and it will affect another in a triggering way. And I've been speaking a lot about this with some friends recently, that and even with myself, sometimes, you think, oh, that hurt, or this felt a bit sticky or crunchy. And actually inviting those in and saying, fantastic, this is a chance to heal. Brilliant. Let's be curious about this. That word curiosity comes in again. What's going on here? Let's find this, instead of seeing it as a bad thing. So if sometimes, and I'm sure it's happened before, you do something and it will affect somebody in a way that might irritate them, or whatever that will be, and seeing it as okay, I'm not going to take that personally. I'm just going to trust that's meant to happen and that's okay. So one example, sorry, is during a sound bath once, there was a lady who came for the session. It was her first one, and she had an expectation and I think it felt like she was putting a lot of pressure on herself to enjoy it, and she didn't. And I said, okay, that's okay, that's fine. Just reassuring that's it's all okay, and maybe that there's something that needs to come through. Just trusting the sound will lift up whatever it is that maybe is blocking, or yeah, like a heaviness. And it was anger. And she said, I shouted all the way home. And I said, fantastic. She sent me a message. I was like, brilliant. It was just so great. So yeah, so just to take away that expectation, and also for as the one being vulnerable and sharing, not to take anything personally and just trusting that it's all meant to be.
I spotted a reel from you recently, which was really different, I felt, from other reels and other social media that I'd seen from you before, because I completely see you as a Zen-like being who, just the sight of you calms my nervous system. Because this was different does not mean that it was not good different, I can assure you. But it was a reel of you and a colleague who I think that you host a retreat with, absolutely roaring with laughter and having so much fun in various different settings. It was really uplifting and super fun. And I've since found out from reading that post and from speaking with you recently that fun and lightness is big for you. Can you share with us, what does it mean? Why do you need that in your life? Because I think it's brilliant.
Oh, I love that. And I loved seeing your comments on it as well, saying more of this. I was like, okay, yes. So thank you for giving permission. That was brilliant. So I love laughing. I love being in that childlike energy. I think for me is so important. And again, going back to authentic, I think I've shared this with you before, but when I was growing up, I was quite chatty, loud, and I remember seeing photos of myself when I was little, and I was always laughing. And then I I don't know if it was school or something shifted. and teach. And I think actually there's one memory I have of a teacher telling me to be quiet. I think that's what it was. And it was just the way it was done, because I think I was interrupting. So fair enough. I understand that it can be annoying as a teacher when you're trying to do something. You've got a child sort of poking you, trying to share something with you because they're so excited. But it was just this real telling off and a shutting down. I think, that going back to the voice, I think I'm sure so many of us have had that feeling before of like, be quiet, shush, stop it. And it's said in such a way that you think, especially as a child, that you completely shut down. So I am definitely rediscovering and sharing more of that energy of the lightness and the fun and the wanting to laugh. And funnily enough, in my head, it's saying I'm being silly, but it's not being silly. It's just being joyful. So the being joyful. And I'm very lucky to have lots of lovely friends around me that I can be joyful with. Almost said silly, be joyful with. And George is one of those. And we have such a laugh together. And I really wanted to share. Again, I just thought I want to share this because it was such fun. And if it makes one person smile, great. If it doesn't, that's also okay. Again, I'm not attached to needing to be this Zen master of like, gliding in. And oh my goodness, I'm so not that. That's the thing. I'm not that at all. And when I'm playing my gongs, I am in that space. Absolutely. But I've got a Christmas jumper on today that I've shared with you because that brings me joy. I saw this in a shop the other day. I was like, great, it's October. I'm buying a Christmas jumper. I'm wearing it today. I'm feeling great in it. So, and yeah, it's giving yourself permission to, wear a Christmas jumper in October, or to sing going down the high street, or to skip, or to whatever it is, just allowing that joy to come through. And it doesn't have to be a big thing or a silly thing, but I think, it was definitely something that I would love to share more. And because I feel like it's such an important thing to bring joy. And actually, next year, that's one thing that George and I were talking about, bringing more into the retreat that we're hosting, having games, bringing games in. As adults, how often do we play games? And uh, so, yes, it's definitely something that I enjoy, laughing, being joyful, making jokes, mucking around, really bringing that childlike energy into life, because actually it's really important for me to share that.
I'm here for it. And interesting that you said that about what you're planning to do next year, because I've had this idea and I haven't shared it with my membership yet, but I want to do not a summer picnic in 2026, but it can be a picnic as well. I want to do a sports day. And not just Monica's cheering with her arms. I don't mean the 1,500 meters. That never did it for me, unfortunately. I'd love to be an amazing runner, but I'm not. But the fun stuff that we did in junior school, with mini bean bags, with hula hoops, with funny hurdles or something, that we can just be playful, joyful, silly. I'm not even worried. Silly, absolutely. Just feel that freedom that for some reason seems like I don't know if it seeps out of us or whether it is contained and sort of locked away as we become adults. But I think that perhaps we go through phases. And of course, when we're teenagers, and like you said about at school, so whether it's younger or at a teenage stage, we kind of get so self-conscious and, shouldn't. And then we dive headlong into our careers or traveling or what have you. But I think that we come to a point in life, and I don't know whether many people do this, but I would really love to always start a revolution, that you get to a point in life where we do just skip down the street, like you said, without fear of what anyone thinks, or do a silly sports day. So yeah, I did not see this coming into the conversation, and I love it.
Yes, 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 please. That sounds amazing. And the word that came in when you were speaking is freedom. It's giving ourselves that freedom back, because we limit ourselves. And I say we, because I think everybody does it to a certain extent, limit ourselves in some way or another. And because of needing to belong, and the fear of if I behave this way, I'm going to be excluded, and then I'm going to die. That basic kind of thing of survival. And actually, I think I remember, was it a study where they gave a certain amount of people different roles. They're all in a room. So I'm just generalizing, but there was a group of people in a room and they gave them different roles. And the people who had the role of lunatic or insane person, when they asked them afterwards, how did you feel? The words were freedom, free, because there were no expectations of them. Or like, they're just nuts, so that's fine. They can behave like that. They were given permission to behave however they wanted to because they had a label of lunatic, which actually is crazy. So hey, I mean, I don't mind being called a lunatic if I can skip down the street in my Christmas jumper and a grass skirt or something. I don't mind if that would bring a smile to someone's face. Great, I would do that. I actually would. So yeah, I think maybe let's do more things like this where we can give ourselves permission to be more free, bring more of that freedom in, and then we can challenge those beliefs, those judgments, and actually just live a more joyful life.
I would love, before we go on to the end of the podcast questions, to ask for you to recommend just one thing that my listener could do today to gift themselves some calm, clarity, or inner balance that's without breaking the bank or without having to invest a full day. So obviously they could come to your Instagram account and get some brilliant tips and wisdom. But can you suggest one other thing that they could do right here, right now?
One thing would be to be present. I think for me, that's such a huge thing to just stop and think, okay, what's going on? How much of me is in tomorrow and the future, and how much is in the past? And am I able just to stop, to sit? And sometimes it's just for 5 minutes is enough just to stop, to sit, maybe put your hand on your heart or wherever you feel, breathe, and just bring all the parts of you back and be as fully present as possible. And I think for me, that's a real practice that I like to do when I remember. Let's be honest, let's be authentic. It's not all the time, it's when I remember. And another thing I really like to do is when something happens and I notice that judgment voice coming in of like, "Oh, this," and labeling it, this is bad, this is good, this is this, whatever it is, I stop and I think, great, this is a chance for me to practice more compassion. This is a chance for me to practice forgiveness. This is a chance for me to practice whatever it is, more love. So that's one thing I'm really doing at the moment, or trying to remember, not trying to remember. I am consciously bringing in as much as I can that practice. Everything's a practice. Life is a practice. And every moment, every second is a chance to say, okay, I'm going to stop now and start again.
Such wise words, and definitely something that we can all start to put into practice, especially that awareness of the judgment that we might place on ourselves. I want to find out from you, and it's especially brilliant that you've not been doing this your whole life, that you have had other career journeys before this. So I would love to know, what is the toughest thing about working for yourself?
I'd say the toughest thing is being organized. Yeah, being organized, because I think I love what I do. I love everything about it. And for me, trying to be organized enough to keep up with the admin, I really struggle with that. And I just like to say apologies in advance because I do miss messages. I think there's so many different platforms that things come in on. I miss messages. It can be very overwhelming with different groups and chats and all this kind of thing, especially on WhatsApp and Instagram and Facebook and all the rest of it, emails and through the website. So yes, I do miss things. And then I struggle with that. I do struggle with that for sure. Yeah. Mm.
I echo exactly that. It is really, really tough. I worry that people think that I don't care, but I literally can't keep up. I do find it really stressful trying to remember that I need to get back to, I know I need to get back to someone, but I start going through all the different places where they might have messaged me and I can't find them. And that is incredibly frustrating. And, the more that happens, the more I kind of beat myself up about it and worry what they're going to think, because they could think she doesn't care, quite understandably. But I am really, really comforted, actually. It doesn't take away from what you're feeling, I know, but I am really comforted that it's not just me. So thank you for sharing that. What is the best thing for you about working for yourself?
Being able to share what I love, to share with others what's really helped me. And that's the biggest thing, really, meeting new people and just being able to share. It's so important for me to feel like I'm being of service. That is a key thing. And I feel for me, being of service is sharing the sound, sharing the Qigong, sharing tools that help me to feel more grounded, more connected. And that's definitely the best thing. And then hugs, actually. Getting a chance to hug people. And I do always ask now, I don't just launch myself at people. I used to. Now I've learned to ask, would you like a hug? So the hugs are the best, I think.
Me too. I must learn to ask. That's a really good note to self. Thank you for that. And actually, I think you've asked me before, can I hug you? And what a beautiful question to be asked, for someone that does like hugs, but also what a respectful question for someone that doesn't want to have that touch, which is completely understandable. There are a lot of hugs in How Does She Do It as well. We do very different things, you and I, but we share that in common. I was going to say you lit up when you shared about the best thing, but you've been lit up the whole conversation, but you lit up even more, which was lovely to witness. The final question that I end every podcast episode with is this. As you know, the name of my business is How Does She Do It? As I believe that she doesn't do it all, not at the same time. Can you tell me one thing that you do, or perhaps one thing that you don't do anymore to ensure that you remain on track, healthy and happy?
But one thing comes to mind, which is not ironing. And I will hang things up and think, if I hang this up properly, then I don't have to iron it when I put it away. My mother is amazing and she is incredibly good at ironing and she irons everything. And she was brought up and she worked in a hotel and she was taught to, iron bed sheets. And I think, oh my goodness, I couldn't even fit that on I don't even know how to start to iron a sheet, to be honest, unless I can do square things, small square things. That's great. But yeah, so definitely the ironing is something I don't do unless it needs to be done, obviously. And something I do love to play games with the children. That is something I love to do. And I've always loved playing games. And when I had kids, my first thing was, yay, somebody to play games with me. So yes, that's something that I do. Probably it obviously doesn't really relate to my business, but it's something that I do that brings me joy and brings them joy as well. So yes.
I love that. Okay, I have to just go back to the ironing bit. This is so bizarre. Last night, our youngest son came into our room just before we were all going to bed. And I don't know where it came from, but he said, I think because I'd changed the sheets, I'd said something about, oh, fresh sheets or something. And he said, does anyone iron like bed sheets? And I said, yeah. I said, I probably haven't given you the best example because I don't. I said, but Granny, my goodness, Granny irons everything. So this is, my mum. And so she sounds very similar to your mum. And isn't it interesting? I tried doing a duvet not so long ago because I thought I'm gonna be better. I'm gonna make my bedroom feel even nicer. But my goodness, I couldn't keep it off the floor. I couldn't work out how to hold it, how to straighten it. Yeah, it didn't become a habit. So that just made me chuckle. And the other thing about playing games, I really, really relate. And I think it is so connecting. It doesn't matter what age they are. There were brilliant games when they were younger, but there are also really fun times to be had with games as they get older as well, even when they're adults. I don't think anything will ever replace that pure fun and connection and enjoyment, actually. So I love that you shared that. Thank you. So we've come to the end, and I've absolutely adored this time with you today. Thank you so much for sharing all that you do, along with so much wisdom and that offering of grace as well. I just feel that what you've shared today will really land in people's hearts and really give them something to nurture and nourish themselves with, actually. And as well as that, to almost give them a permission slip to allow that nurturing. I've loved it, and I really hope you've enjoyed it as well.
Well, I love being here with you and just hearing your voice. You've such a beautiful voice, you're so eloquent, and so thank you so much. Thank you for having me here. I feel very honored to be here. And even that little voice saying, when you first asked, I was like, me, that little girl, like, me? What? When you look behind you, you're talking to somebody else. So thank you so much. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, the pleasure is all mine. Before we go, I almost forgot. Where can people find you if they want to get in touch, if they want to learn more from you, if they want to be inspired by you? Give us all of your details, and I will also share them in the show notes.
Thank you, Jo. So I have a website, lunasoundandenergy.co.uk. I'm also on Instagram under Luna Sound and Energy, Facebook, and then through the website you can contact me through there. There's also my number on there, so please do feel free to contact me. It's always lovely to hear from people. And yes, and I have got some things on the Instagram. There's a Qigong exercise which is really lovely grounding exercise called pressing palms in calmness, and there is a little meditation on there. So I will be adding more things onto there. Actually, speaking to you today made me realize it's really good to have somewhere people can go, even if it's just a little 10-minute thing, to say, okay, I'm going to do this now, or I'm going to listen to this. And so thank you for reminding me to do that.
That's why conversations are brilliant. I think it just brings things up for us that, we're probably bubbling away under the surface, but yeah, you must. I think it would be really, really beneficial. And do send me links to those two, the meditation and that other exercise. And I'll pop those in the show notes too, to make it really easy for someone to just click and be with you. I've loved today. Thank you for your time, and I very much look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you, Monica.
Thank you, Jo.
Thank you so much for listening today. I really hope you enjoyed the episode. If you did, I'd love you to take a moment to share and subscribe too. Come and join me over at How Does She Do It Life on both Facebook and Instagram. And until we speak again, I wish you a wonderful week ahead.